Okay, Olivia Plath. Olivia Plath. I don't know, girl, you might be the best guest, get all of 2025. There's so much to talk to you about.
Is this an hour or two, or are we thinking three?
It could be, it might be 4 hours. Maybe this will be a very long episode. First of all, welcome. How are you doing? Since I would say, I can't remember when you started kind of really posting your story about you and Ethan and how verbally abusive he was, like this spring. But how have you been since putting that all so public?
I I am doing well. I think that growing up the way that I did and then having the very tumultuous marriage that I did, there's so many times that I think, oh my gosh, I'm in a great place and I've kind of made sense of everything. And then you get 6 months down the road and I'm like, I think I should talk to my therapist about this. This is something else to kind of another layer to dig deeper. And so as with anything, talking about being in an abusive relationship has opened things up for me to work through and deal with, but I welcome that.
So, and you, well, look, obviously I posted multiple times. I believe you 100%. You've posted the audios, interactions with him. But, I know I see all the comments. I mean, I know for everybody that supports you and believes you, there's a lot of people that don't feel like, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. So I always feel like that's sometimes challenging when you go public because you have to be ready for no matter what you say, there are going to be people that never believe you and will never take your side. So were you prepared for that? How's that felt?
I was prepared for that. I think there are still some days that it hurts. And not even hurts, it frustrates me. Being a woman and talking about your experiences in life, so often women are discredited and not believed and not listened to. And you can provide as much evidence and proof as you want, and people still don't care. At the same time, I realize that that is not unique just to me. One of my good friends has been assaulted, and no one's believed her either, even though there's literal video evidence of this from police. So it's just this reminder that women in society are not believed, and it doesn't matter how much proof you bring forward. And when I read these comments of people who still don't believe, even though I've posted, a lot of the proof that I have, I'm just reminded that this is a society issue at large. And it has nothing to do with people hating me.
Do you think it's a TV issue too? Because I relate to you because years ago I was on a morning show with iHeartRadio called The Kane Show. Kane was very verbally abusive to us and did physical things, kind of like what Ethan did, threw keys at us, kicked trash cans at us. This was like probably 2009, still before like that whole Me Too time's up, right? And extremely toxic. But on air, he was like beloved. He was like a public figure, much like the Plaths, who have a lot of supporters. People love watching them. They are, I mean, I will give them this. I mean, they are a train wreck to watch. Like they're compelling. I mean, they are, you know? So, and Kane was kind of like that, right? So when I finally left and told my story, which was similar in the way of like verbal abuse, yeah, I got a lot of pushback and I got a lot of people who were like, why are you tarnishing his legacy? This man is, he has a family and he's this and he's that. And so I know what you're going through. It's hard. And I think it's harder when they're a public figure versus like a corporation.
There's a lot of internalized misogyny, and you start to realize that when you start to talk about your experiences as a woman. And one of the comebacks that I've always had is if me saying what he did is tarnishing his reputation, then you really have an issue with his behavior and not me saying something.
Mm.
Me, like if he did these things and it's so horrible that his reputation would be ruined if people found that out, then that has everything to do with what he did and not me sharing it. And again, there are so many people who would love to like debate with me and argue with me in the comments. And I sometimes I take it as par for the course. I'm just like, I'm gonna answer this. And other times I just go, it's not even worth it because this is a society issue of internalized misogyny at large. And we see that in every aspect and facet that men are given leeway and grace that women will never be given. And when I look at it that way, I don't look at it so much as these are comments about me to fight. I view it as this is a systemic thing, and I have to do what I can in my day-to-day life to help change this for society at large.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, have you heard from any men? I think because I think I know
Yes.
you have your perspective, but I mean, I do think there's a lot of men with really verbally abusive women too, right? I mean, I think
Yeah.
maybe not to the same degree, but I mean, I do think social media has brought to light, and I mean, unfortunately, Veronica is kind of an example of this. Like, there's some really toxic women out there that are,
For sure. I say that this is a issue for women at large because statistically more women are affected. However, that does not negate the fact that men are also affected by this. And when I say people are often not believed, it's usually women I find that are not believed. However, when we look at domestic violence or domestic abuse statistics, men are also affected in that. And people don't talk about it or show them support
yeah.
because of this idea of toxic masculinity that we have that like men couldn't be affected by that. So like when I look at my comments then I start to see that it's a much bigger can of worms with so many different things involved and it's not really about me.
I was asking you this before we started. Has Ethan, since you have gone public with some of these recordings and told your stories, right, about him spitting in your face, taking a door off the hinges, have you heard from him or the family at all about that?
I've heard from him one time. And I know that this was teased in the original trailer for this season where he and I had a meetup face to face. Um, And he had a message for me on behalf of him and all of his family, trying to silence me. And after that confrontation, I blocked him. Like, I will not, I don't have time for that energy in my life.
What did he say? Like, take the videos down. I'm going to sue you. Because I think
I
that's
don't
people have said things like that in your comments, like you're going to get sued. And
know. One, to sue for slander, it has to be false. So that's never bothered me when someone says that. I'm like, okay, sure, he could take me to court if he wanted. Um, I don't think I'm at liberty to say exactly what he said because I know that that scene airs and has not aired yet. And I don't want to ruin any storylines, but his was just pretty much a broad message of like, stop talking about us. Um, so yeah.
can you give us any updates on your divorce? He was hot to trot this spring of 2025. He wanted you to sign. I like that was
Yeah,
actually my favorite video of yours. And you were like, you know what, motherfucker, pump the brakes.
yeah.
I liked that one the
He
best.
he had me blocked for a year. He reached out in January and was like, "We need to get divorced immediately." And I was like, "Wow, imagine hearing from you again." And I told him, I said, I want to get through tax season. Like this is January. I'm starting to prepare my taxes for the year. I was in the middle of incorporating myself and I was like, I just really want to get through this tax season and figure this out. And then I'm happy to revisit this once all of my financial ducks are in a row. And he would not let me take 3 months to get this figured out. I had to get it done immediately. And every time he texted me, I would answer him with the exact same thing. I already explained this to you. You made me wait a year, come back in 3 months. You can give me 3 months until I have filed my taxes. And he would not do that. Um, so eventually I just blocked him and decided that I would just work with his attorney instead. And I emailed his attorney and was like, we're keeping it between us. Like, I'm not talking to him. And it's still at this point stalled, and that is on my end. I completely own that. I don't trust his attorney. I told his attorney the two things that I wanted was one, I want a private file. I do not want all of our financial information open to the public to dissect and put on Reddit. And in the state of Minnesota, it's automatically a public file. His
Oh.
attorney could not guarantee that it would be a private file. And the second thing that I said was I did not want Ethan having access to my mailing address or personal information because that does not feel safe to me. And his attorney could not guarantee he would not get a copy of that. So I'm like, I'm not going to work with you if the two things that I'm asking, you can't guarantee that you can do for me.
Yeah.
So
Well, that one's tough in the state of Minnesota, right? If they have, like, is there anything that the lawyer can do to make it private? If the state allows it public?
I think you can. I just think that it's a lot more work and a lot more hoops to jump through.
Okay.
Um, so I mean, celebrities, when they file, that's all private for a reason. They don't want people digging into that kind of thing. I think that maybe it would take a different lawyer and it would be a lot more work, but I think that it can be done. And if I file in the state that I'm living in, there's a chance that it could be a private file instead. And the only thing that's held me back from that is I went to go get a new driver's license for the state that I'm living in, and I could not get a driver's license because I did not have a piece of paperwork showing when I changed my last name 6 years ago. I requested that from the state of Georgia, and the state of Georgia, like, took 3 months to send me a copy of my marriage license certificate. So I went last week and I finally got my Virginia driver's license and like everything is all sorted now. But that's been the holdup on my end.
So where are you with like, does it bother you? Or are you like, I don't know, because you guys are kind of at a standstill, right? You're sort of,
We're sort of at a standstill. I know the steps forward. It's just a matter of every piece of paperwork lining up to get you there.
hmm,
Um, and unfortunately, because I changed my name 6 years ago, I still have some issues with getting the correct paperwork to prove my identity. Even though I took in every piece of federal paperwork that I have, I was like, I have a social security number. I have a passport. I have a global entry background check. Like I have all of these things in federal paperwork to prove this,
yeah.
but I don't have the marriage license. So I finally got that and yeah, went and got everything changed over. So I know like what the next steps are and I know the end is in sight. It's just the paperwork and the headache of it all.
God, we wish you good luck on that one. I mean, 'cause it's
Thank
been
you.
like 3 years. It's been, for a lot of people that are going through divorce, it takes a long time, a long
Yeah.
time. Well, I think in that video, which has been a couple months, you had said like one of the reasons was he was engaged to Teegan or wanted to become engaged to Teegan. Now we hear they're not together. What do you hear? Not that like, I know you don't speak to them, they're blocked, but what do you hear? Are they together or not?
I've heard that they are not. I heard that they broke up, got back together, and broke up again.
Has she reached out to you?
Okay, I'm gonna say this, and then I feel like I have to like put a disclaimer or qualifier in this. I don't know because I don't remember who I said this to. I told someone that Tegan's child's dad and his fiance like reached out to me. And that is true. And someone repeated that to Veronica, and all of a sudden Veronica's saying, "Oh, they reached out to me." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't know why they would." They reached out to me because they had seen videos I'd posted online about Ethan, and they were like, "Hey, we're concerned about the daughter, like Tegan's kid, with joint custody. We're concerned about her being about Ethan. What can you tell us about him beyond what you've put online?" And I gave them my honest 2 cents. I told them what I experienced in my relationship, and I just said, if he's changed, I wouldn't know because I'm not with him anymore. I'm just giving you like an honest recount of what happened. And they thanked me. They said, thanks, we'll think over this. And I've not talked to them since. It was a, one encounter. Somehow Veronica heard that, and now she's saying, like, oh, they reached out to me too about everything. And I'm like, what? I should just keep my information private because somehow she ends up having the exact same thing happen to her for everything that's happened to me. But yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about Veronica.
Yeah, I opened another can of worms there.
Okay, well, we're here. And I don't know, I mean, look, I've known you longer. I respect you. I know you're telling the truth. So that's how I feel. I've had a couple conversations with Veronica. It's not good the way she's obviously been portrayed on the show. You're on reality TV, you've been on reality TV. They can't force you usually to say anything, right? So how you say and act is usually they manipulate the situation. They're like, "Hey, this person said
Yeah,
this about you. What's your response?" But I mean, the words you choose come out of your mouth, right? And
right.
she handled it really poorly. I don't think anybody can defend her at this point. Um, you did the video. You guys aren't friends.
It's hard because when I first reached out to Veronica, I'd never met her. I didn't know her. I just saw someone getting bullied online, and I thought, wow, I remember when my life went public and those comments really affected me. And she was just getting a lot of hateful comments that are indicative of our society today and how we're trying to out people as like trans or whatever. And I just reached out to her. I was like, don't listen to the comments, ignore them. Like, you're beautiful. Don't take it to heart. Because I had been told by a producer that she had a lot of insecurities. And I was like, well, this is really going to affect her. Let me just give her my 2 cents and just like tell her to ignore it all. Throughout the months that followed of us occasionally having text or calls back and forth, I felt badly for her because I know what that family is like. And I was being told at the same time by producers, be really careful. Anything you say in a text, whatever, can become a screenshot and a receipt. And you just need to be really careful the information that you pass on, because everyone's kind of on edge around her. We're never really quite sure. And I was like, okay, that's good to know. I'm not very involved, so I don't really feel, you know, uneasy about it. I'll just show her support for her experience with the Plath family, but kind of remain at a distance and keep out of it. And yeah, everything that I was warned about, unfortunately, now has kind of come true.
I know. I know. It's too bad because, you'd love to see you two united in the way, if it were genuine. And the hard part is, I think, when you guys aren't united, which, you don't need to be, it's your life. But we miss the plot, which
Mhm.
is really like, to me, I feel like Kim and Barry are the most toxic. And like, anytime anybody else is having a fight, it's like we're really taking away from the two people that kind of have caused this whole thing, which I'm going to ask you more about that because I actually find
Yeah.
Barry to be
And
the
it's
most
also
toxic.
like one, yes.
I don't know if that's
One
true,
of the
but
producers, that's a hot take, but I don't disagree with it. One of the producers literally told me, like, Veronica is constantly bringing you up to say that you and her are experiencing the same thing. And I was like, I'm not there. I just know the family. I'm not there. That could be true. And she was like, well, you're not. You didn't instigate things the same way. And I'm just worried that you're going to be discredited by her, like, kind of lumping your experiences together. And these are all things that I'm told and I'm just taking in and I'm like, okay, I don't really know what to think. I'm not involved in this. I'm just going to kind of live my life and keep my distance. But like, I was told things about her and I wanted to give her the chance to prove her own character. I was not just going to believe it and be like, "Oh, I'm not going to talk to Veronica anymore." Like, sure, show me who you are. Like I will remain nice to you unless you give me a reason not to be. And unfortunately, she was right in calling other people bullies, but if you're also a bully yourself, then I don't really want to be friends with you, or align myself with you, which is where I sit. So,
well, yeah. And I mean, look, I mean, that therapy scene alone, it's kind of like, I don't, the therapist is like, well, if you're like an eye for an eye, you want to throw more mud when someone, like, you're never going to be in a relationship because that's not how, nobody's perfect. Like, people are going to make mistakes. You have to forgive, move on. You have to try to fight. It was so argumentative, it was like, it kind of feels like, have you guys had any conversations? I mean, did she want to shoot this season? Were they really together? Because it almost seems like, she was
yeah,
kind of
they were
there to,
together.
okay.
They were together. I don't know all of her motives. Like, she was telling everybody on Reddit that her and I talked all the time when we were friends, and that was never the case. There was occasional dialogue between us. Sometimes I would reach out, like when the episode aired of Micah cheating on her, and I saw some clips of that on my social media, which I had already known that, but I just reached out. I was like, "Hey, I know that this dropped today, and I just wanted to show you solidarity. Like, you don't deserve to be treated that way." So I would reach out when something like that happened. She got in some legal trouble, understandably, from her online presence post her time on the show. And she reached out to me and asked me if I would join her in suing the network. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Like, that's not a smart move. Um, and yeah, I had waited like a month to get back to her on that, and then she never texted me back. And after I posted my video saying we weren't friends, all of a sudden she's going online like she's just mad I didn't answer her last text, and I have receipts of that. And I'm like, okay, post them. Like, I don't care. My
Yeah.
last five texts were answering you. They say nothing about me. I don't care. Sure.
So it sounds like, okay, I think too, like maybe you can talk more about this, but the video you put up, I think for you, the last straw was maybe, I don't know, I didn't see it, but she put something on Instagram about Charlie Kirk's murder. She's also friends with him, she says, or was. And okay, so was it that, or was it really all these things that you'd sort of been warned about ended up coming true? And this is a person you feel like you can't trust. So I can't be friends with someone like that.
I think so. There was a lot of things leading up to me deciding I wanted to publicly make a statement that we weren't friends. And I had already known that for a while. Um, I wasn't really reaching out anymore, and I was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna let this go. I'm seeing your season air this. I mean, I'm seeing your behavior air this season, and I don't really want to be friends, and I'm just gonna quietly remove myself. And then she had been very, very vocally loud about how racist and homophobic the Plaths were.
Yes, that's true.
And um, and then she posted a story about Charlie Kirk. Listen, I I know people who are different political affiliations than me, and I would never say like I'm not going to be your friend because you are, a registered Republican or something. That's not what it's about. It was more the language she used of this was a good person who had zero hate in his heart towards anyone. And I don't believe that personally. And when I paired that with other things she was saying, I was like, Okay. You can't say that the Plaths are homophobic, but then you're turning around and think that calling Micah gay is an insult. You can't say that people are homophobic and then try to out Micah on social media and make fun and be like, check his Venmo history for things, guys. He was with men. Like, you can't say that someone else is homophobic and you're not if you're then engaging in homophobic behavior. You can't say that you are against the marginalization of minority communities, but then engage in that same behavior. And it had nothing to do with her liking Charlie Kirk. Frankly, that's her opinion and that's her life. It's more so to do with the hypocrisy of calling other people these things, but then condoning that same behavior. And that was the last straw for me to be like, we're not friends. Like I never said in my video that I hated her. I never brought up the word Republican at all. I just said, if you call out people for being a bigot and a bully, but then you turn around and engage in the same behavior, it discredits you, and I don't align with you. And she took that very, very personally.
You make no bones about you've been very political on your social media. How does
Yeah.
that feel? Because that's a choice, and I mean,
It is a
it,
choice. It's so wild
yeah.
because I find that there's usually two responses to me posting political things from people who don't like me. One is from people who would largely condone the way I was raised as a conservative, homeschooled, evangelical Christian. They would say that that was a great lifestyle. They also live that way. But then if I post about politics, they'll be like, you're so dumb. You're so uneducated. It's because you were homeschooled. And I'm like, wait, I thought homeschooling was a great thing. That doesn't make any sense. And then the other thing that people often tell me is that I make everything political and I don't know anything about that and I shouldn't. And that's also weird to me because growing up as an evangelical Christian or a Christian nationalist, which is the world I grew up in, you are taught to make everything political. You are raised to make everything political. You are told that everything is a good versus evil battle. You are told that, I mean, I literally grew up under dominion theory, which is this concept that I heard all the time growing up, Muslims are having a lot of kids, so Christians have to too, so we can have more people than them. And this dominion theory was this, which is widely followed by thousands of Christian evangelicals and Christian
Oh.
nationalists, is this concept that you need to have as many kids as possible and shoot them out into every branch of government and law and like every single job that exists, Christians should dominate. That way, our ideology, which is right, can have dominion over all others. And when you're raised to look at everything that way and make everything political, it makes complete sense that as an adult, I still do. I look at things differently now, but I was taught to critically analyze everything and see if it was for God or the devil. And now I critically analyze everything and I say, is this good for people or not? Like they just don't like it because it's not in their favor anymore, but that's how I was raised.
Do you have any people that like argue with you like in a more respectful way? Like are some of your
Yeah. Actually, so I've kind of been challenged recently on how I engage with people. And not that I think that I was a bully before, but I do think that sometimes it can feel really good to own somebody in a debate and be like, well, here's the fact and you can't deny it.
yeah.
And I was recently challenged. I watched a reel from someone who said nobody's ever changed their mind on something because they've been owned or humiliated in a debate. And that really resonated with me. And I've been working really hard and having conversations in my DMs with people to bring more facts to the table and not emotions. And if I say something, sending an article linking to it, just kind of like trying to keep the conversation going so people can educate themselves. And I had a girl last night after we'd had this exchange in DMs where I was bringing some articles to the table and linking some facts and stats. And she was like, honestly, you're nicer to disagree with than a lot of the Christians that I know. And so there are like some pleasant, nice conversations in my DMs. Yeah.
Do you see yourself going into politics? Because you seem like you enjoy it.
I don't think that I would see myself necessarily going into politics. I think that I would see myself working in an advocate space for human rights. And unfortunately, human rights are now closely entwined with politics, where human rights are on the table, which is why I think that I find myself being so political. Um, at the end of the day, I think those things should be completely separated. And I would love to work in a more human rights space, whether it's advocating for people, working with nonprofits, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You seem like you enjoy it. You do a lot of research. You're passionate about it. Obviously, given your background, I liked the way you said that about growing up Christian evangelical. See, I didn't know that, so that's a fascinating part of your story. Okay. I want to switch gears and talk about people that I think are really being highlighted here this year is the Plath family, and not a great light.
Not looking too good for them, is it?
Did it feel good, by the way, to that was kind of the thing a little bit. And then I didn't take any pleasure in it because like Kane really went downhill. But does it feel good to be, we were talking about being right. I mean, a lot of people must be seeing them for who they are, right? I mean, they're the opposite of what they started as 7 years ago. My God, Kim and Barry were uber religious and no one could drink. Now we see Kim, I mean, she can't wait to pour a glass of champagne. She's had a
Mhm.
DUI. She's dating. Barry's weird. I mean, it's like they're all coming to.
My very hot take is that they are not that different. Um, what they do on the outside might be different, but my hot take is that they're the same people inside. The other thing about the Christian evangelical or the Christian fundamental world is that it is so based on outward appearance. And so many of the choices that Christian fundamentalists make are all about how it looks on the outside. It's just a checklist. It's a box to check off. I did this, I didn't do that, I didn't do that, and I did this. And I don't think it's really any different now. The reason why they changed their beliefs so drastically was because they went public and they got criticized for it. And so they tried to make themselves more palatable. Um, yeah, that's my hot take. They're not actually different people inside.
Okay, wait. So you basically, even though now they seem like totally different, right? Kim drinks openly. She's dating, whether she's with Ken or not. She's had this DUI. She finally addresses the DUI. I mean, she's making jokes like if Teegan had an OnlyFans, can Teegan give her tips? She wants to become like a foot model. I mean, it's like these. Okay, do you think what is this? Like, you think that inside there's still these hardcore Christian people, but now they're just
No,
letting in?
they were
Okay.
they were never hardcore Christian people. It's always just been about what group of people are we fitting in with and what do we need to believe to do that. Before, they were trying to fit in with the Christian fundamental crowd. And what do we need to do that? That's why Kim kind of yo-yoed with her beliefs all over the place. She went from wearing head coverings and headscarves to not, to doing this to not. Like it was always just trying to find what group do I fit in and identify with? And when her life went public and she got a ton of criticism for things, she's trying to fit in with a new crowd. She wants to be liked by different people now. Which is why I say that they really haven't changed as people. They just want to be liked by different people now.
Mm. What do you think of Barry? Because I feel like Barry is being exposed as the most toxic with this divorce. We've seen, obviously, he's withholding, money, property. At least that's how it's
Yeah.
portrayed this season, right? And I would say this is the first season. Again, producers are great at this because it ebbs and flows like who's going to be the villain. Veronica's the villain, this year, right? You've
Mhm.
been the villain in the past. We're getting Ethan is a little bit more of a villain, right? But I think they're really portraying Kim as like having some empathy for her. There's this kind of like owning the DUI, whether she's really owning it. That she's sort of at the mercy of Barry, with this divorce. And, she insinuates in an episode, like, Barry, if you don't get in here, like, I'm going to tell them really the truth, whatever that threat was. So I feel like Barry is kind of being exposed for being like as toxic as she is. Do you think that's true?
I think two things can be true. I don't think he's a good person, and I don't want to be in a room alone with him, and I do not trust him. And I've had plenty of my own experiences to back that up, that I do think he's toxic. And what's being presented on the show is not accurate because I know for a fact that she's hiding things. I know for a fact that she has received a lot of the financial stuff and just spent it very unwisely.
What do you think of Barry? Like, I sort of have this prediction he's going to end up dating one of Mariah's friends. Like, is that like she'll be like 22-ish? Like, I mean, I just feel like they're going south, so like he's going to go all the way. What do we think?
Is Are Mariah's friends into like having conversations about lizard people and how Michelle Obama is really a man and any other conspiracy theory? Because if so, I think that's what floats Barry's boat.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of 23-year-olds out there for him that yes, believe that actually check all those boxes. Yeah, that's not far off. Okay.
Not, it's not. And apparently this family like dates their fans, people who slide in the DM. So maybe
That's
that's where we'll find someone.
Ethan and Teegan reportedly met. And what do you make of the boys, by the way? Micah, you obviously knew them. Isaac. I mean, Isaac's being labeled the most toxic of all. Obviously, we have this fight coming up over Veronica. Which, by the way, to your point, you can't like advocate for women's rights, then call one a slut and
No.
allege she has an OnlyFans when she doesn't. I mean, that's kind of a big rumor to put out
There's
there.
been a lot of controversy over whether or not Tegan has an OnlyFans, and I have seen some of the proof, and I have also
Oh,
heard some of the rumors, and
oh,
I remain in the space of it doesn't freaking matter. Like that
that's
is
true, doesn't it?
Tegan's
Doesn't.
business. That is her business. I don't understand why Veronica. I understand Veronica having been cheated on is panicked. I understand her reading into things and not trusting Micah. That is all valid. I understand that when people are cheated on in relationships, especially serial cheated on, I understand that they are wary of everything because they view it as a threat to their relationship. I relate to Veronica on that. I feel very badly for her. And I also think that it is unfortunately her job to kind of have control of her own emotions and her own thoughts and not build these huge castles in the sky over what she thinks might be happening. And in trying to make sure her boyfriend doesn't cheat on her, which is where the accountability really should be, she's slut shaming another woman. And perpetuating this idea that if it happened, Tegan would be responsible because she has an OnlyFans. Like that's absolutely Micah's behavior to own. And if he won't own it and continues cheating on her, then break up with him. Why would you stay in a relationship where you feel like you have to monitor every other woman your boyfriend is around to make sure he doesn't cheat on you? That
Yeah,
says everything
not
about
the
your boyfriend.
foundation. Yeah. Well, right. And the therapist basically said that to her. Look, if he says he's, not cheating on you and he's apologized or what, you have two choices, right? You either, if you can't trust him again, then you need to exit, or you
Hmm.
have to believe him and move forward under the belief that he's not going to cheat on you again.
Yeah.
Like you can't, yeah, it's not one or the other. What about Isaac? Like when you were in that family for so many years, I mean, it seems like it's so interesting. Like he almost is the most toxic of the boys to some degree. But again, hard to know because you're getting an edit. So
You, the edit that you're getting this season, I think, is a better edit than reality. Number one. There's a lot of behavior I know that has been cut out of this season. So if people think that this edit is bad for the Plath boys, the Rage brothers, then it's actually the good edit. The second
rage.
thing, I think like when you raise your kids to not have any outside influence and you've never taught them how to think through things, how to think for themselves, how to be critically analytical of things, they're very susceptible to cult mob mindsets. And that's exactly what's happened with specifically Ethan and Isaac with this current online social media climate of red pilling men. They have fallen straight down that pipeline because they were never taught to critically think about it. And so they're susceptible to all of that. And they've kind of become the manosphere that we're seeing on social media is what affected them. Yeah.
You could see that. Yeah, you could see that. Because to your point, I mean, yeah, like you grow up so sheltered like that. I mean, you're searching for
Yeah.
something, and now the parents have split, all kinds of things. Plus, it's magnified because you're on this reality show. I'd heard rumors that they weren't even, that the family was divided about shooting season 7. You've been brought in for different scenes for season 7. I mean, are you surprised they continue to do the show? Is that true that they were? Okay, so do you see them
They
doing more seasons?
they will do any season that is offered to them.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So many of the kids don't have actual careers or jobs or things lined up. And that is how they've made their money for years. Um, and I think it's kind of gone to their head a little bit. And as long as it's offered to them, they'll do it.
What have you made of Lydia and Zach? Like, what if this whole,
I have a hard time commenting on them because I've never met them. I mean, I've met Lydia, but I've never met Zach, and I've never seen them as a couple together. Um, the only two things that I really can say is one, I think Zach coming into the picture really highlights how Lydia was treated by her family, and how she's been parentified and ignored. And the fact that she's saying Zach is the first person who cares what I think is really, really sad. The fact that none of her family ever cared about her until suddenly she was getting ready to get married, and all of a sudden everything they're doing is to protect Lydia, but they've never cared about her. Even in the opening part of this season, there's the trailer where Ethan and Kim are sitting there trying to look all badass and cool, and they literally say, Lydia, nothing ever happens with Lydia. Um, so I think it's sad in that sense that she's been treated that way by her family. And when I look back on my time in the family, that was happening even then. And I didn't recognize it for the problem that it was. And I feel badly about that, that I contributed to not including her in things or not making her feel welcome or whatever. We all viewed her as the tattletale. And it was like, well, if you include Lydia, she's going to tell Kim, so don't include Lydia. And I look back now and I'm like, Lydia was just put in that position, and had no choice as a 12-year-old,
Well, and
14-year-old,
a
whatever.
way to get attention from, Kim with
Yeah.
11 kids. And, I mean, right? That's a way to get your mom's affection and attention
Yeah.
and favoritism, So,
Yeah. So I feel bad that I perpetuated that system that I absolutely hate. Yeah, the only other thing is I have seen a few things on social media that she has shared about her family, about like talking to her family and stuff. And maybe that gives me a little bit of hope because if she's not able to see who her family actually is, I don't think their relationship will be healthy long term. I think it would require her to be kind of honest about how they treat her now husband. So she's talked a little bit about that on social media, and that gives me kind of hope for her. And from afar, I'm just like, I hope you figure it out, and I wish you guys well. And
I
yeah.
I wondered if you could comment on that because it seems like, they are kind of getting their own independence. First of all, they're doing a lot of podcasts together. They've launched this YouTube show where they're going to kind of feature their life. She's becoming kind of an influencer, which like good for you. You've got this platform, like you might as well make money, do it,
Hmm.
ride it as long as you can. She just put up this past weekend this message to Kim, essentially like, I can't believe, watching this back, how you guys have treated Zach, So yeah, what do you think? I mean, it does seem a little bit like maybe he's helping her realize, like, okay, this isn't normal, and we need to create a boundary with them.
I hope they move away. I think one of the downfalls in Ethan and I's relationship is that we didn't move away, and he was so against moving away.
Mm.
And his family having that much access to our relationship all of the time was detrimental. And yeah, I hope that they move away. I hope that they do well. That's all. That's
Yeah.
really all I can say. I hope they do well. I hope they
Yeah.
figure it out.
Me too. I mean, it's very interesting. They've kind of become the stars of the show. They're trying to make them that, and it will be interesting to see. One other person I want to ask you about is Mariah. I'm very fascinated by her because we don't see a lot of her. She doesn't, it's hard to speculate, but she doesn't look particularly like she's doing well mentally. Although I give her a lot of credit, with the conversation she tried to have with Veronica. But, one of the big things that's come up over and over is how Mariah would meddle in people's relationships, and yours, your prior marriage, kind of keeps coming up. What did Mariah do when you and Ethan were married that was kind of so, I mean, they kind of portray like she would lie, she would get in your marriage. Was that true?
Yeah, there was a lot of ways Mariah meddled in our relationship. I think there was also a lot of open doors for her to do so. When she got kicked out of her parents' house, she moved in with Ethan and I. And obviously, she's living with her brother and her sister-in-law. If things come up, she's going to take her brother's side. And there was a lot of conversations that happened when even I wasn't present in the time that she was living with us was between season one and season two. And I didn't want to do season two. I was dead set against it. I was like, I did season one. It ended with Barry and Kim lying about me buying a plane ticket. I am never doing this again. And Mariah and Micah were really upset that I didn't want to do season two. And she was living with us at the time. I was driving her to work every day because she didn't have a car. And I just remember that the house was so tense. Like she wouldn't talk to me. She would sit in the car on the way to work, like facing the window for weeks on end while I was saying no to season two. She kept calling Ethan, being like, please talk Olivia into this. Like, please, please do it. They kept staging like these meetings where I would walk in and Micah had come over. It was Mariah, Ethan, and Micah. And Micah and Mariah were telling me, like, you're taking away our opportunities. Like, we get that, our parents are not nice to you, but this is also our life and our only option. Like, you have to say yes. You can't take this from us. And she really tried to get Ethan on their side, so it felt like my own husband didn't back me up. Um, that was the first time that I really saw her start to kind of meddle in the relationship. And towards the very end, I think everyone kind of saw this in season 4, the season where it was not my finest hour, and I was very emotionally unregulated and not healthy, not well. And there was a lot of talking behind my back of Micah and Mariah trying to get Ethan on their side, and come between us and things. And of course, yeah, she posted a social media statement about me saying that I lied and made everything up and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. They tried to do that about Kim with the credit card. And I think the MLM,
Yeah.
which by the way, of course we believe you. Like, I mean, does
And
anyone for one
Ethan,
second believe Kim didn't do that?
their own brother, Ethan, was like, yeah, that happened. Um, at the end of the day, I look at it as like I feel sad looking at Mariah,
Yeah,
because I know the potential that was there. And it's just been really sad to see her kind of decide that being honest with herself about her family is too much and too hard and not worth it. And that's going to affect her life, but that's not really mine to fix.
well, reality TV is interesting for them, that they choose to keep staying on because it does have a way of showing people like they're all really young still. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting in a decade. Like, are they still close or
Yeah.
does this show continue to hold a mirror up to like, this really isn't normal because the more famous if they stay on that they get, the more they're going to be exposed to other people who are going to be like, I didn't grow up like this. I don't have parents like this. I don't have a relationship like this. You can move, be interesting to see why they keep doing it. But fame and the money and the opportunity are pretty intoxicating.
Yeah, for a lot of people, especially if you had nothing before. That makes sense.
Yeah, and had no, I mean, you grew up without even drinking a Coca-Cola. So now you're like walking through airports and people see you and you're getting brand deal. I mean, that's a real mind fuck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I said we'd move on, but I do want to ask about this, upcoming broken nose like fight with the Rage brothers here. I mean, were you? I don't know that it's going to be actually as violent as we've sort of been led to believe. There's been a lot of buildup, and I mean, I'm guilty of adding to that because it's like, what? I mean, like I'm like
I
Willie
was gonna say,
Model
I've
again.
seen your videos.
I've actually probably instigated the entire thing, so I own that. Uh,
It's
and I'm
all
like,
you, Sarah. It never happened. You made it
Willie
up.
really model again. Then I'm like, oh shit, yeah, he's gonna model again. It doesn't look that bad. So yeah, I think I've built it up for so long, like this is gonna be so bad. Now it doesn't seem so bad, but I don't know. What did you make of that? I mean, had you seen them be violent before? Were you surprised when you heard this?
Yeah, they've been violent with each other before. Ethan has broken some of Micah's bones before, because of being violent or shooting him with BB guns or wrestling or whatever it is. Like, they've been that way since I met them. And I did not see it as a red flag when I first met them because I grew up in the fundamental world of men who believed that they were alpha males and that was just what boys did. Um, Now years later, I'm like, wow, that's a pretty big red flag. If you can assault your brother. And Isaac did, he ripped his nose, like tore his nose up, and Micah had to have a bunch of stitches to put it back together. It was split. He's not disfigured for life, like Veronica was saying, but like, yeah, that's pretty serious. And the fact that they were buddies again the next day, kind of shows, I think, that that's normal in their family.
I am totally with you. I'm completely disturbed. The way, if you would do that to your own brother without serious remorse, like, and again, families all have issues, even if you weren't raised hardcore Christian, like things happen. I said this, there was some cousins of mine, they had a fight at my wedding. Someone had to go to the hospital anyway, but they got stitches in their mouth. So I can't say, I haven't experienced it, but they worked through it and it was not a good moment. And everybody knows it's not a good moment.
Yeah.
So it was so disturbing. And I feel like there's something about Micah, I think because he's been in this modeling world. Obviously, Andy Cohen loves him. I don't know. I almost feel like they pick on him a bit. I don't know. I worry. Like, I'm like,
Micah's also, he's more passive than Ethan and Isaac.
yeah.
Um, and he's always been that way, even if he is a part of kind of circling the wagons for that family, even if he's a part of that stuff and doesn't stand up for his partner, whatever, he's more passive than Isaac and Ethan, who are much more aggressive
Oh,
with what they
yes.
want and what they think. And if it had happened the other way around and Micah had been the one to beat up Isaac, I would have been like, that does not make any sense. The fact that it was Isaac on Micah, that makes sense.
Oof. All right, let's switch gears, talk about your life. Where are you at with your parents? You know, you've fourth appearance on the show. I love it. You got to come back. I feel like you need to do like a political podcast. We can debate topics. I love it. I love that you aren't afraid to answer questions. But you know, the couple times you've been on, you've talked about your own family. I mean, you haven't spoken to your parents in years. Have you had any reconciliation there?
No, I know when the show first started, I told everybody that, my dad had apologized for the way he raised us and like I was good with my parents now. And I wanted to believe that. My dad had made an apology to me at that time and was like, I'm really sorry you were hurt by growing up in this world. But the years that followed were just patterns of the same behavior over and over again. And I kind of started to see that the apology was not honest and real. And so there was a lot of people who were like, well, Olivia lied about her family because she said they were all good and now they're not. And I'm like, it's so much more nuanced than that, guys. Um, in the years that followed, actually during season 4, like the same 2 weeks of filming that we were all going up to the farm for Joshua's memorial and everything happened and blew up. My CPS took away 3 of my siblings from my parents for abuse. And that just kind of like there was a lot spiraling, and I have not had any really conversations with my parents since then. Obviously, since then, one of my brothers died, and I went back home for that funeral. But I think that I see a lot of discourse online, and I think this is a larger societal thing people are talking about children being estranged from their parents.
Yeah.
And it's happening more and more, and we're seeing it more and more. And I always tell people like nobody would choose to not have their parents in their life flippantly. Like it's hard either way. If you have a strained relationship with your parent, it's hard either way to either be in that relationship and not be allowed to talk about certain things or put up with any of the gaslighting or whatever. Like you can put up with that and have a relationship with them, sure. It's hard. You can also decide you don't have bandwidth for that in your life and cut them out, and it's hard. Like it's hard either way when you have a strained relationship. My parents are still very religious, and very convinced that they did the right thing. And I think especially with CPS getting involved, which was called by one of my sisters, and with my brother dying, it has kind of just cemented where everything was sitting. And there isn't a relationship there. And I feel at peace with that. I think
Yeah.
that for who my parents are, and the way that I was raised, and space and distance from them has helped me better identify certain things that happened in my life when I was raised, including abuse inside the home. And I'm okay not having that relationship.
Wow. I mean, you must get a lot of people that reach out to you because, like you said, hard either way. Hard to
Yeah.
have a relationship with parents where there's really no open dialogue, and no forgiveness, acceptance on both sides. Like, that's really hard. Very
Yeah.
hard not to have any contact. Like, do you get a lot of people that I'm sure must reach out to you, like how you get started, how you,
Yeah. I think honestly that while my time on reality TV was not the most fun in a lot of ways, there were so many benefits to it, whether how it opened up my mind to different
yeah,
things and helped me think about things differently, or the people that reached out and the community that I have found of people who are like, we get it and we relate to that. And it's kind of given me a platform to launch off of when it comes to talking about things like religion and politics and family relationships and in-law dynamics and family dynamics and all these things that I have a lot of experience in coming from a tumultuous family relationship and marrying into a tumultuous family relationship. And that's given me a lot of things to relate to other people on. And I feel honestly really lucky that I have a great community now of, yeah, when people message me and they're like, I related to that, my first thought is, I'm really sorry. Because if you relate, it means you probably felt some of the things I did. But also on the other side, there's so much community for you. And so many people who understand what it's like to go through that.
you must have a good therapist too. Like, how do you, I mean, because that's hard. It's got to be emotional, especially I always think, now that I am a mother, I'm like, I can't imagine not, I just can never imagine if I had a spouse or like listening to a husband, like just nothing would keep me from like constantly trying with my kid,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
as a woman, that's like So have you gone through a lot of therapy? You talked through that? I mean, that's rough, I think.
Yeah, and I also think that there was probably a couple years back where I could have felt very jaded by that, but I've met enough people who are great parents to make me believe in that relationship again. My boyfriend, his parents, I know that if they became estranged, his parents would do whatever to fix that. His parents are so kind, not just to him, but also to me. And there's been a lot of people in my life who I think when you lose family of origin, it opens you up to find other family.
Yeah.
And I always tell people that when they talk about losing their family of origin, leaving the fundy cult, like what comes next, I'm alone. And I'm always like, you're not alone, I promise you. There are so many other people out there who will become adopted and chosen family, and that's what's happened to me. And I feel like my life is very, very rich. Sometimes I feel a little guilty for saying I don't miss my parents. Um, I
Hmm.
think that the way that the relationship was, there isn't much of a capacity to miss them because there wasn't a lot of nurturing there in the relationship. I imagine that you're a pretty nurturing, kind mom, and it would be hard for your kid to remember that and then not want a relationship with you. I don't have those memories with my parents.
Right, right. See, like I'm thinking, right, like I'm best friends with my mom, right? Like, I mean, and growing up, like it was just always an open conversation policy, right? And I grew up Catholic, but she and my grandparents, as they got older, realized some of the ridiculousness of the
Yeah.
church. They love God, I have a great relationship. I love being spiritual, but they ended up kind of coming around to like, your relationship with Christ should be like free and all this other stuff of like having to tithe and whatever, right? With Catholics, like all this Lent and guilt and confession and the priests doing awful things so it's like they kind of began to go, this is like, a business, right? And
Yeah.
not about your relationship with Christ. So but for you, like you never had that, like you never were best friends with your mom. So it wasn't like she was like had this open door policy where it was like, come in, let's talk about these things and we'll figure it out. If you never have that, to your point, you're not missing that.
Yeah. And when there's a lot of this online discourse, especially on Facebook, of older women being like, I can't believe my kids don't want a relationship with me. It's a problem with the new generation. I always think, well, did you foster a relationship with them, a friendship with them when they were young, or were you always the authoritarian and they had to listen to you and obey you and what you said went and they couldn't ask questions and you didn't allow them to be curious? Did you allow them to make their own choices, whether insignificant or not, when they were younger? Like, did you give them space to be their own person? Because if you didn't foster that, why would they still want a close friendship with you? My
Yeah.
parents didn't. It was an authoritarian way that they parented, and that continued into adulthood. Like the switch didn't just turn off when I turned 18 years old.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I don't have that relationship to grieve. Yes, there are times like on Mother's Day, Father's Day that I feel very emotional and I think about the parent I wish I had, but that parent didn't exist. So it's grieving the absence of something and not necessarily someone.
Um, I know we have to wrap up. I could talk to you for 8 hours, but is it like, do you have a bit, how is it like seeing Brandon, right? Like seeing your boyfriend's relationship? Like, do you feel like it's hard to like fit in because like you see him with his parents, they get along with other people, or do you feel completely comfortable? What I'm trying to ask is almost like, how lots of times in careers you have like imposter syndrome. Is it kind of like that, like in relationships? Because you're like, God, I've never had like this example. Can I do this? Like,
The first thing I noticed about him and his family was his sisters who had gotten married never changed their name. And that was like one of the first things I thought about. I was like, huh, yeah, because they both went to school and they got their degrees and they're graduates and this and that, and they're a very well-established person outside of the relationship they're in. Did not grow up seeing that, obviously. Same thing for his mom. And the only like the only imposter syndrome I really feel is his family is pretty well established and well off, and I didn't grow up that way at all. So there's a lot of foreign things to me with that. And then also they all went to college and some of them went back to college for, more degrees and this and
yeah.
that. And I didn't grow up in a world where women could do that either. Sometimes I'm there and I'm like, I'm the poorest dumb one. But honestly, they're all so kind to me. And his mom, especially, is so supportive of me. And it's just like, you can do anything you want to do. Like anything you put your mind to do, you can do it. You're so smart and you're so talented in this and that. She's been the nicest person to me. And I told her on her birthday this past year, I was like, I know what it's like to have the terrible mother-in-law experience.
Oh my
So I
God.
appreciate you even more.
That's what I mean. Like every step of the way, you must be like, wow, okay, this is like a whole different feeling. Yeah. You walked
And
on
it's,
eggshells with
yeah.
that family, plus had a reality show in your face. I mean, oh my God, Kim Plath as your mother-in-law. I forgot. I'm like, oh my God.
And the funniest thing is when I was still in that before Ethan and I got divorced, I really thought there would be no life after divorce. Like I really thought because I'd put all my eggs in that basket, the whole thing would just crumble and I could not see past getting divorced. I just really thought it would kind of be like the end. And I still knew I had to do it because I was like, I can't live this way anymore. But I don't know what life looks like after this. I don't know if it's gonna be beautiful. And now that I'm here, I'm like, oh my God, why did I stay so long? That was so terrible. In hindsight, I can see just how draining that was on me emotionally, mentally, physically. And I tell people that who I get people messaging me all the time, like, how did you have courage to leave? I'm debating it. And I'm like, listen, if I could have told myself a couple years ago what I know
How
now and
good
what
it
I'm
was going to
experiencing
be,
now, how good it was going to be, I would have left so much sooner.
right? Because you wouldn't have met Brandon, right? It's all about like the timing, right?
It is. On the one hand, I look at it as like, I can't believe I stayed so long. And on the other hand, I say, well, I stayed as long as I needed to learn what I learned and to be where I am.
By the way, how did you two meet? I mean, you really seem like you got this catch, and he's like supported you. I mean, how did you
We
guys meet?
we met working a wedding. When I was getting divorced, I asked our aunt in Minnesota. I was like, I don't know how to meet people. I've never been on a dating app. I've never been on a regular date. I literally don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And she said, don't worry about it. Do things that you love and do things you're passionate about, and you'll meet people along the way. And that's exactly what happened.
So you just met at a wedding. That's wild.
I was photographing the wedding, and he owns a pet care business in the DC area. And not only were they my clients getting married, but also his clients that he walked their dog. So he brought their dog for photos, and it was a little meet cute.
How many years now have you guys been together? Because it's been a while, right? A couple years.
October will be 2 years.
How do you like living in DC or the DC area?
It's a wild time to be here.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, for you being so full. Yeah, right, right, right. Wrong
It's a
administration for you. Yeah.
wrong administration for me. But also, I think that when things are at such unrest, it provides even more opportunities to stand up for things and to help people, and to be involved. So I look at it that way. There are days I avoid going into DC if I know that there's stuff going on. I'm like, I'm not getting caught with Homeland Security on every corner. I think it's a great place for where I am now. I don't think I would live here forever, but we signed a couple year lease here, and I've got three airports right next to me. I travel all the time. I would rather be living in Europe, and DC feels like a European city in so many ways. So it's a
Yeah.
great fit where I am now.
Yeah.
You used to live in DC, no?
16 years. I loved it. Yeah. And there's a lot of people that think like you do, for sure. You find that
Oh
community.
yeah, I'm not the minority in DC,
Yeah,
no.
right. Yeah, it's much more of a liberal town in
Yeah,
general. So, yeah, I loved it. I loved my time there. It did, obviously I love pop culture, I love reality TV. So moving to LA made a lot more sense. There's
yeah,
not a lot of that. And it is a political town.
it is.
If people don't work in politics, they work for government contractors that do something for the hill. It's tough if you're not in that space or you consume it all the time. It is. It
It
is
would be hard for someone to live here who was apolitical. If somebody was like, I don't care
that.
about politics, this would be a hard place for them to live.
It's everywhere.
Me, I do. I like to know what's going on. I like to be involved in different organizations. I like to be involved for different causes. And so it's a great place for me to live. And I like that DC is a walkable city. Again,
Yeah.
I like that it feels like a European city. We do have a metro here. There's a cafe culture here, and there's a lot of green spaces. There are a lot of tax dollars that go into benefits for the people living here. So I do like that.
Yeah. The last time you were here, you were open to doing another reality show. Clearly this is going to be your last season with the Welcome to Plathville. Are you still open to doing any more reality?
Depends on what it is. I'm in a holding period right now, getting out of my contract with Discovery until I can do anything else. But I've been telling anyone that will listen, I really want to do Dancing with the Stars. Like
Yes,
I
you
wasn't
mentioned that.
I wasn't allowed to dance growing up in fundamentalism, and it was always something that I really regretted, that I wasn't allowed to pursue this kind of thing. I don't really know if I have rhythm. I don't really know if I have moves. And I am not very confident in that. But I think that a show like that would be great for me. One, it would be kind of healing an inner child, something I always wanted to do. And two, it would whip my butt into shape. And I think that that would be really good for me. So I've been telling anyone who will listen, like, yeah, I really want to do Dancing with the Stars. Like, if you have, connections or something like that.
I mean, I really want you back on TV. I know you're like done with Plathville. I know Veronica won't be back. I mean, Veronica's so good as a villain. I mean, it's just like I want to see you somewhere. So I'm like,
I
oh,
don't want to do unscripted reality.
yeah.
Um, if I went back on a reality show, I think it would be a scripted reality show or one that is a lot more structured. I don't ever want to be like on an unscripted, we'll just see who fights with each other kind of thing. That's not for me.
Well, you don't get any control of the edit. You never, as you've been through for 7 seasons, I mean, and they love the drama. It's what sells. And look, and I'm guilty of, I get it. I watch you two women say like this show should be off the air. And there's part of me that's like, yeah. And then the other part's like, but I love what, like, when are you ever going to get a dysfunctional Kim and Barry with all these kids again? I get it. It's hard.
Yeah, I think I have advocated for the show to be off air because I know the people who are on the show, and I, one, think it's detrimental to them to not be able to figure out their own life without cameras around. And two, I know what they think that the network hides. And I just don't believe in promoting things like that or giving people who have really hateful things to say microphones. There's just so many hateful people with microphones in the US today. And I'm like, can we turn some of these off? So that part of me has advocated for the show to be off air. I also completely understand the drama of it all, the sensation of it all, and how people want to consume it. I never want to be part of unscripted drama again, but if it was a scripted drama show like Traders, to me that's a much more scripted
You get on that.
reality show. And I would be down for that kind of drama.
In the meantime, you're focusing, of course, you have fantastic photography, wedding photography business. Is that still where you want to be? It almost seemed like, too, maybe a year ago, you were kind of stepping into the influencer space. Is that something, or do you love your photography career?
I've kind of remained open to whatever's come towards me. At this point, I'm shooting around 20 weddings a year, which to me is part-time. I was shooting like 40.
Okay.
So
God.
20 to me is like half year
Okay.
employed, and the other half I've kind of divided it between different projects, whatever's come up. There have been a lot of, I guess, influencing gigs, or I have an agency that brings me things. So that takes some of my time. I've also recently stepped into the, like more of the travel space. And I was traveling before on my own dime, but I've been collaborating with travel companies and tour companies
Yeah.
and getting ready to host group trips with them for next year. So that'll be kind of something new and fun that I've not done before.
Well, Olivia Plath, look, you are another person. I am always like, when you drop a video, I'm like, what'd she say? Like, I'm like, ooh, 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 ooh. Oop, I love, I don't know, girl. Anyway, maybe I'll launch my own network and there's some show for you because you are fascinating to watch. You are
Thank
fascinating to
you.
watch. I'm glad you're doing okay mentally, financial, everything. You seem well. Good for you for putting your truth out there. It's not easy. It's not. So people need to give you credit and keep your Plath last name till you decide otherwise. I can't even believe that's like a fucking thing for people. Like, why are you using
Somebody
their name? It's like,
commented
hello, she helped build the fucking show. It's like they do this to great
also,
women too from Sister Wives. I'm like,
Also, nobody berates men over that. Like, men don't own last names. And when someone comments like you should remove Plath from everything, I'm like, if you're so jealous, go down to the courthouse and make your last name Plath. Because guess what? Free domain. Nobody
yeah.
owns this last name. You could make yours that at the courthouse if you want.
And
Someone commented yesterday was like, you should build yourself up with your own name. And I was like, I did. It's who I
yeah,
am.
yeah. No, and more people need to hear. I mean, my husband sounds like your boyfriend. I mean, I kept Fraser. That's my maiden name because for
Yeah.
years on the radio and on TV, it's like, yeah, I worked, and that's the name that people know. Like, more women need to hear that because it's great to hear your potential sister-in-laws, whatever happens, but that they do that. I did that. My
Yeah.
husband never had an issue. There's never been a problem. But it's interesting. It does bring up things. There's one person in our family. He has a big issue with it. That really bothers him. I'm like, why do you care?
Internalized misogyny. I literally told Brendan, I was like,
Something.
I want you to know, like, if we get married, I'm not changing my name again. The headache that it's been, the work that it's been, and why? Why do I have to change my identity every time I link up with a new guy? It doesn't make sense to me.
No,
Like,
it doesn't.
I'm all for people changing their last name if they want. And I just warned them, just be careful. It's a lot of work and that can bite you in the ass years down the road, which I'm still finding out.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't think I would change it again. I think I went through the work once and this has been my entire adult identity, and I don't see why I should have to give that up.
No, and you earned it and you were such a part. You built that show. I mean, you really did. And so, no, congrats to you on all your success. I love your social media. I hope you're making a fortune off TikTok. Hit monetization because like, girl, there ain't a video you could put up that people ain't gonna comment on. Like, I love how controversial you are. Just
Thank you.
record.
I recently started, I like recently joined the creator program on TikTok, so I
Good.
can earn money on videos, and anything that I've earned from talking about the show or domestic violence or anything like that, I've put in a separate like category called folder. And I'm working with one of my friends to use any of that and donate it back towards domestic violence and that cause.
Wow.
And just thinking like, what else can I do with my platform? Because if I'm going to get money talking about domestic violence, it only feels right that that goes back into helping other women who don't have the platform or are too afraid to speak up. So
Good for you. My God, that's great. Well, congrats. Please come back for a fifth appearance as things unfold and just wishing you nothing but health, happiness, safety. So thanks, Olivia, for coming back.
thank you, Sarah. Thanks for having me back.
Always good to see you. All right, hold on. I'll hit